The Untold is the untold truth about personal trainers and the state of the fitness industry. This is the final episode in this 4-part series, and what an episode I have for you. Today I'm speaking to Ryan Michler, founder of the Order of Man. Ryan started the Order of Man to give men a community, a resource to become better. Better at what, you ask? All facets of life, from self-mastery to family, from money to contribution, and everywhere in between. Here are just a few other things that Ryan and I discuss. We discussed how by the time he was 3 years old, his dad was out of the picture and he had a couple of stepfathers come into his life, where one was an alcoholic and the other was verbally and emotionally abusive. We discussed how his wife nearly called it quits on their marriage and how he then went on a journey of self-discovery. We asked the question, could turning our focus to just one area, in our case fitness, lead to further problems? We shared our experiences of how a coach will help you see things that you can't see for yourself, how role models are very important, and how not being congruent can create inconsistency and inefficiency across all areas of your life. Stay tuned to the very end, when Ryan shares how learning about fitness and losing weight were in fact very valuable business lessons as well. Could fitness be the foundation to having it all?
Become a better personal trainer by becoming a better man. Become a better man by applying knowledge from others who've walked across the fire and have a thing or two to say about it. Listen to Joe as he delves into some of the greatest minds of the best coaches in the world, who bring inspiring stories and powerful insights to share about the human condition. Hear how the fitness industry goes only muscle deep, and how a new breed of trainers are using emotional and mindset hacks to improve as men, evolve their game, and make the competition irrelevant. Trigger your pathway to greater fulfillment. With us, stand in the face of fitness. Welcome to the Fit Man Collective.
Fit Pros, what up? My name is Joe Hanney. I'm your host and founder of the Fit Man Collective. As always, thank you for being here and listening to my podcast show. As you know by now, this show is about becoming a better personal trainer by becoming a better man, a fit man. I ask the all-important questions that as men feel we can't ask, especially if we build up this illusion that we're busy, we're comfortable, robots almost, and that we know what we're talking about. Selling the image of fitness, our bodies, our health is exhausting and is often done at the expense of the other important areas of our lives: family, love, connection, intimacy, freedom, self-mastery, financial security, to list a few. These are the blind spots in which I hope this show will help you explore. Before I introduce you to my guest today, I just want to let you know that you can get all the show notes, links, and everything we talk about at www.thefitmancollective.com. And second, make sure if you haven't done so already, that you join our Facebook group, The Fit Man Collective, at www.facebook.com/groups/The Fit Man Collective. Now, I want to take a moment to introduce you to my guest. Most of his childhood was spent without a permanent father figure in his life. He was never taught how to work on his car. He never had a chance to roughhouse it with his dad. He didn't even learn how to throw a baseball correctly until he was a freshman in high school. Looking back on his life, he wonders how his life would have been different if he had that permanent male influence in his life. He often asks, what would the world look like if there were more men in it? And he's not just talking about males, he's talking about men. There is a difference. Now, Ryan has sons of his own. He's committed to being the dad that he never had. Ryan strongly believes that as guys, we're losing the meaning of manhood. We've gone away from being strong, rugged, independent and tough to a collection of wimpy, dependent whiners. Something has got to be done. And that is why Ryan started the Order of Man. And that is why I have him on the show today. Let's just see how we can together make men out of the male personal trainers amongst us. Okay, talking about all things masculinity and manliness, I can't think of a better man than the man himself, Ryan Michler, founder of Order of Man and the Iron Council. Hey Ryan, welcome to the show.
How you doing? Thanks for having me on. I'm looking forward to our conversation today.
No, I'm very excited and really appreciate that you're taking time out to speak to the audience today. And I know the fitness professional personal trainer is going to take a lot away from this.
Well, good. That's what we like. That's what we'll do our best.
Yes, yes. So, Ryan, just for the audience, please just tell the audience that what do you do today? What is the essence of your work, and what's your kind of day-to-day stuff now?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, bottom line, we run Order of Man, which you mentioned, but the at the end of the day, our goal is to help men become better men. So we want them to be better leaders, better fathers, better business owners, brothers, you name it. We want guys to be better guys. And so we do that through a blog. We do that through a podcast. We've got a Facebook group. We've got some masterminds. In fact, next week, we've actually got a live event that we're doing. And really the goal is to help give these guys all the tools and the strategies and the resources. We're having a lot of conversations with high achievers and high performers to give them everything that they need to improve their lives and really take their lives to the next level. So that's kind of a 30,000 foot view. We can delve into that a little deeper, but that's an overview of what we're doing.
Okay, and how did that come about? Because I know you've got a very interesting story. So how did the Order of Man come about? And share your story if you don't mind.
Yeah, so if you wanted me to go back to the very beginning, it actually starts when I was 3 years old. And I can do this fairly quickly, so don't get too concerned with that. But my dad, unfortunately, was out of the picture for the most part by the time I was 3 years old. I had a stepfather come into my life who I remember glimpses of him being a good father. We worked on a Pinewood Derby car together. We would go to the sprint car races. But at the end of the day, unfortunately, he was an alcoholic. He was never abusive, but just wasn't present as a father. And then I had another stepfather come into my life who was verbally and emotionally abusive. So I never really knew what it was like to be a good man. I didn't have anybody to model. I didn't know what a good husband did and how he behaved. I didn't know how a real man takes care of his kids. And I didn't really understand this fully until I started getting into my marriage and I started having children of my own. And there came a point in time where my wife and I decided to call it quits, mostly her. And looking back on it now, I think that she was absolutely right in being concerned about our marriage because I just wasn't there. I wasn't there and present when I was really angry with not only her, but just the world in general. And I didn't know how to deal with any of this stuff. And so I went on this self-discovery mission to figure out what I needed to do, who I needed to become, what I needed to change, what information I needed to learn. And throughout the journey of doing that over the past 7 years, and some of the other work that I'm doing, I came to realize what it means to be a man and how a man behaves and how a man acts and how a man leads his family and his neighborhood and his community. And I don't have it all figured out. I'm still learning along the way, but through the things I've learned and the conversations I've had, I've actually seen that there's a lot of guys who have gone through very, very similar situations, and they're still in the mix of pain and discomfort and misery and feeling like there's got to be more to life, but not really understanding what it is. And as I help these guys step more fully into their role as men and really reclaim that masculine side, they're able to take control of their fitness and their health and their businesses and their money and their relationships and their overall life. So it's been a really fascinating journey. We've only been going for about 1.5 years now. But we've really taken off because the message is resonating with men across the planet. So it's exciting to see.
No, good. And that's such an awesome story. And I resonate a lot with that. And I know many male personal trainers will as well, because I think the challenge that's going on with this fitness professional is I don't think they're so self-aware of this stuff going on. I know with you, it took very severe pain in terms of your marriage breaking down. I don't know if there's a way of identifying this within themselves before it gets to that stage. Was there any kind of clues along the way leading up to that kind of, should we say, severe pain when it all was kind of going to break down? Was there any kind of blind spots that there was messages there, but you just wasn't listening to them? I suppose what I'm trying to say is there any way that we could help the trainer identify these very early on before it gets too late? Or does it take going to that very severe, painful spot to really make that change?
I don't think it takes getting to that position. I certainly hope not. I mean, we can learn from other people and what other people have experienced. If guys can learn from me, that's going to be more valuable than having to learn it themselves. Not only is it less expensive, but it's less time consuming. Yeah. Less resources, and it's less heartache and frustration and all the pain and misery that I dealt with as I was learning and on this journey for myself. But I do think it takes being very aware. And I think this is something that we as a society are not good at. And we're not good at being aware because we don't give ourselves margin. And what I mean by that is we pack our schedules so tight with our clients and our family and our business obligations. Maybe we have some community obligations. Maybe there's some spiritual or faith-based obligations that we have. And we pack our schedules to the brim, and we give ourselves no chance to consider what's actually happening. Like, what activities are we performing on a daily basis? Are these things that we should be doing? Are these things that are not effective? If they are effective, how can we make them more effective? If they're not effective, how do we get rid of them? And so this series of being able to think and clear your head and identify what it is you're actually doing, what it is you're actually thinking about on a daily basis by creating margin in your life is really going to help you improve before it gets to a situation that becomes out of your hands, like it was in the relationship I had with my wife at the time.
That's very interesting. And there's some great points that you raised there. And I believe with a fitness professional, they turn to the gym, a bit similar to what you said in terms of they don't have any margins, but the gym more or less takes over their life. It's something that I turn to thinking that might, well, I'm not sure if they're even aware of this, like you said about self-awareness, that it's kind of covering up. It's like a Band-Aid to pain in their life. Would you say that is true with most men, not necessarily turning to fitness for the men that you work with, but they turn to something else, probably to sedate that pain that's going on?
Of course. I mean, we all do that. And the problem with the fitness industry as a whole, and I don't want to say industry, that's not the right term, but the problem with turning to fitness is that on the surface, it's a very healthy activity, right? Hence fitness, hence nutrition. So it's really easy to say, well, I'm taking care of myself. I'm doing the things that I need to be doing. But if you as a man or a woman is so one-dimensional that you can't think about anything else, that's going to create serious problems in your life. So if you're using fitness and nutrition in the gym as a way to enhance other areas of your life, see, here's what I see. And I'm not in the fitness industry, so you can correct me if I'm wrong, but it's not, you're not getting healthy just for the sake of being healthy. You're getting healthy to live a more fulfilled life, to have deeper connections with your family and your friends, to have the energy to pursue your passions and the things that you're excited about, to, again, use energy to create more wealth so you can have more experiences. So health is not the end result. It just allows you to have more of what you want. And if you become so consumed with health and fitness, or anything for that matter, it's a hindrance to the other objectives that you have in your life.
Yeah, spot on. And I believe also by looking at the wider perspective there, not only are they going to become better men, as you say, but it's also going to filter down and their clients are going to experience the impact of that as well. And that kind of leads on to my next question. At the point that you seeked out coaching and help yourself, how important was that in terms of your journey? Did it kind of accelerate? Did it speed up the process of you getting to where you are today?
Yeah, so here's the deal. I've been a financial advisor for just about 9 years now. And the problem that I see with people when they make financial decisions, and then also in the coaching practice I have with Order of Man, is that you are emotionally connected to the decisions you're making on a daily basis. And those emotions can serve you very well in certain circumstances, like finding love, for example. I can't really describe why specifically I love my wife. I know she's attractive. I know she engages me. She keeps me curious and anxious, and I get butterflies in my stomach. That's all emotional-based things, right? I can't quantify that. But when it comes to other areas of our lives, emotions sometimes work against us. And this is our mind. This is that lizard brain. This is the first evolution of the brain, which is basically telling you to stay alive. Not really thrive and be fulfilled, but just stay alive. And we've developed other parts of our brain that now have helped us thrive. We've gone above and beyond what we need. But the reality is we always revert back to that lizard or that amphibian brain. And what a coach will help you do is a coach will help you see things that you cannot see on your own. Right. If you blocked that out, you have a closed set of circumstances, experiences, cultures, scripts that are running through your mind, things that your parents and your friends are telling you that you've now accepted as truth and reality. A coach is willing to shake that up a little bit. And because they shake that up and show you something different that you can't see on your own, you're going to get a new perspective, which is going to accelerate your learning in any area of life.
No, I totally agree with that. And just to skip forward slightly on something else that you said that you didn't really have a father figure around, and this is something that I'm seeing more common in the fitness industry, and it was very true for myself. Is that the same for most men that you see, or is that am I just kind of being?
Say that again. That what now?
Is most of the men that you work with, do you find that they have very similar challenges to what you had in terms of no male figure around them?
I see. Yeah. I don't know if that's common. It's actually more common than I thought. And I think it's actually becoming worse and worse. I think that there's a lot of children born out of wedlock. I think there's a lot of problems in relationships before people even decide to bring kids into the world. Yes. And it's actually really frustrating because I don't see a lot of fathers or mothers, less and less, that are actually engaged, that are being involved. I'm starting to coach my son's football teams, and I have some amazing men who help me coach these teams. These guys are very engaged. They're very active. They're very willing to participate in their children's education and learning and extracurricular activities. But there's a greater percentage of men who don't get involved, who are so consumed with what they're doing, and they use the lie or the excuse of, I don't have enough time, in order to not make these kids a priority. And because they're not making these kids a priority, I think the kids are growing up without a role model, and they're growing up without an example of what it's like to function as a self-reliant, strong, independent, strong-willed adult. And so it is a problem, and it's becoming more and more of a problem as this cycle perpetuates.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I see that with many male fitness professionals, personal trainers. And a key word that you said was present. And if you don't mind sharing, what did you do differently to enable you to become very present in your relationship and also your family?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing you've got to do is you've got to establish boundaries. This is one area that I see too many men and women do this as well, is they don't create boundaries for themselves. And so they allow everybody to railroad them. They allow other people to dictate how they spend their time and their energy and their resources. And before you know it, you look up and you realize, man, I'm not even living my life. I'm not doing the things that I want to do. I'm not fulfilled. I'm not satisfied. I'm not enjoyed. Most of us wake up every single day when the alarm goes off, not because that's what we set the alarm for, but because that's when we need to get up, just with enough time to get ready and get into work. And then we drive to work the same way, and we get into our companies, and somebody from the minute we walk in is dictating what we need to be doing every single minute of every single day. And then we get done with that, and we come home, and our spouses are barking at us to accomplish certain things throughout the house. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but I'm just saying somebody else is, again, giving you instruction on how to live your life. And then we go to sleep, and we wake up, and we do the whole thing over again, and we're not left with any time or resources for ourselves. And so this creates major problems. We just aren't able to accomplish the things that we want because we're letting other people run and dictate our lives.
Mm-hmm. With all of this going on, as you said, there's so many things to a man's life that he has to consider. And I'm in complete admiration for what you have achieved and what you are doing. How do you kind of keep that balance across those areas, health, business, relationship?
Sure. Yeah. So I think this is a matter of congruency. This is a question I get asked all the time. How do you balance between family and business and everything else? And we hear about the hats we all wear, right?
Yes.
But I think the bottom line, again, I'm going to go back to boundaries. That's certainly one of them, is creating clear and established boundaries between what you're doing at work and what you're doing at home and the margin that you create for your life. But I think there's another element to this, and this is congruency. I really don't subscribe to the theory that all of us wear different hats. There's only one hat. There's our life. And if you're a different person at home than you are at business, and you're a different person at business than when you are out at your friends, and you're doing something that's contradicting at work what you believe about your life and how you want to behave with your family and your home, this can create inconsistencies and inefficiencies in your life. So if you really want to balance, and I'm using air quotations, if you really want to balance, which is a myth in itself, we can talk about that, you're going to have to find congruency, meaning you're going to have to be the same exact person at work as you are at home. And here's the bottom line. And I know this is something a lot of people don't want to hear. If you're doing something at work or in your life or in your spare time or any of your extracurricular activities that are in conflict with the way you view life and the things that are actually valuable for you, you need to make a change. because you're never going to be fulfilled. You're never going to be satisfied. You're never going to be happy. And there's always going to be this part of your brain that says, oh, there's got to be something more. I just can't figure out what it is. I'm telling you right now, you're not doing what you were meant to do. So to wrap this all up, to tie this together for you, my kids, for example, know that I run Order of Man. They know exactly what Order of Man is. They know that because I'm working hard down here, I say down here because I'm in my basement of my house, that I'm working down here with Order of Man, I'm becoming a better father. And because I'm becoming a better father, I can be a better coach. And because I'm a better coach, I can be a better business owner. And because I'm a better business owner, I can be a better husband. So all of these things are overlapping for me, which makes balance a lot more manageable.
I like how you put that, and especially using the word congruency. And that's very true in that if you don't have, let's say, that them high standards in one area of your life, it tends to bleed into the other two areas. And that's something that I see a lot. And I really like how you put all that together in terms of the congruency. And if you don't mind, just share your belief, should we say, or your belief or value around balance, because I know you wanted to mention it.
Yes. I mean, for me, at the end of the day, the most important thing for me is my family. It's my wife and my kids, and that stems back all the way to my childhood. I really have to be available and present for my children. So what I do is I can measure every decision, every opportunity, everything that comes up, every demand from my time or question or quote unquote pick my brain. I can measure this and say, does this help me be a better father? Does this help me be a better husband? If the answer is yes, I can pursue that interest. If the answer is no, it's very easy for me to say, no, I'm not going to do that, because what I do when I say yes to some opportunity or some thing, whatever it may be, that isn't in line with my goals, it actually detracts from what I really want. And again, we end up looking up, and so many people are guilty of this, and then we blame it on everybody else when it really was our fault for letting our time slip through our fingers and actually just giving it up voluntarily, not placing any value on our time and letting other people dictate how we spend it.
Yeah, and I've certainly fell into that trap more times than I'd like to admit. And
sure.
Was that always the case for you in putting family first? Or was there a point when you made that change, and then making that change, that's when things really took off for you?
Well, so here's the trap. The trap is that it's really easy to say my family comes first. And so if you're asking me, has it always been that way? I always have said that's the case, but my actions spoke differently. Like I consumed my time with work and with my own personal interest and everything else at the expense of my family. And so that was the problem. And then I looked at it and I said, well, I'm being noble. I'm doing what a man needs to be doing because I'm here working and I'm providing. And at the end of the day, those were lies. Those were excuses I was coming up with to take the easy route. It's definitely harder to be a good father. It's definitely harder to be a good husband than it is to slack off in those areas and show up at work or show up at the gym or whatever else is easier for you. And so the answer to your question is no, it hasn't always been that way. But I got to say right now in my life, I'm probably the most fulfilled. I'm the most satisfied. I'm the happiest I've ever been. I've been on this planet for 35 years and I'm the happiest I've ever been. And the reason I'm the happiest I've ever been is because the values that I've always held dear and identified as important, I'm actually living those now. And that's the biggest source of frustration and contention for people is when they have this idea and this vision and this concept and these mantras that they subscribe to, yet their actions aren't in line with the way they view life and the way they view how the world works and the way they want to be in their own life. And so when you can marry the action with the idea, that's where fulfillment happens.
And I'm really pleased that you validated a point there, which I'll come back to in a moment. But just before I forget this next point, was it that when you found when you put, I think what the challenge most people have is identifying what their true values are, would you say?
Sure. Yeah, I think that's pretty difficult. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. They kind of either copy or replicate somebody else's and then take that onto themselves, which then they always find hard to fulfill anyway.
Or either they find it hard or they just are not engaged with it. So they give it up really easily and just revert back to their old patterns.
Mm-hmm. And talking of when you feel absolutely fulfilled now and please correct me if I'm wrong, it seemed once you identified that the love and the relationship with your family, your wife became that important that you organized everything else around it. This is something that I've identified within the fitness industry, that personal trainers don't have that really down, that loving connection, that intimacy with a partner. They don't really have that down. And there's many reasons for that. But I do personally believe if they kind of got to work on that, it would make them a whole lot better person, and then make them more fulfilled, which then they would become a whole lot better trainer, coach, per se. Is that the same with many men that you've worked with?
Well, here's the thing. I don't think the issue is when you identify it, things improve. I really don't. I know there's a lot of talk about getting your mind right and everything.
Mm-hmm.
You got to think about this stuff first, and whatever you think about, you become, which is true to a degree, but the rubber really doesn't meet the road until you start taking action. And that's the point that I want to illustrate more than anything. Is it's relatively easy, I think, to identify what's important to you.
Mm-hmm.
But if I were to look at your bank statement every single month, I'd be able to tell you exactly what's important to you, and it probably would be, in my experience, at odds with what you actually say is important. So I think identification, sitting down, again, creating margin and space in your life every single morning, every single night. I'm talking every single morning and night without fail, sitting down and identifying what it is you want today, what you're going to accomplish. That stuff's all great, and it's critical you do. But unless you're acting upon that, you're just not going to be happy. It's the pursuit. It's the drive. It's the potential that I think is what's really motivating. It is for me. We just bought an old 76 International Scout. When I see this thing, a lot of people would look at it and say, here's this rusty bucket of metal that just happens to move. Well, I look at it and I see this. I see what I'm going to do with it, right? I see what it's going to become. I'm going to paint it. I'm going to put wheels on. I'm going to fix the engine up. I'm going to scrape all that rust off and put new panels where the new panels need to go. And I see the potential in it. And I think a lot of fitness trainers see this as well. They see somebody coming in who's literally wrecked their body over the past decade with eating food and drinking and not being in a gym. And they don't see this fat person who has no potential. They see the person that this individual can become. And so I think it's the pursuit of what it is that you're trying to accomplish is more exciting than anything else. Because here's what happens. Let's say that you have a goal, and I'm going to talk about fitness for a minute. Let's say you have a goal of losing 20 pounds, just hypothetically. Yeah. Great. So you go on this mission, you start eating better, you start exercising, you go through this whole regimen, and then you lose 20 pounds. Well, anybody who's done that, then what do? They create a new goal, because the goal isn't important. It's the pursuit. It's the trail that is important. And I think this is what we need to focus on more than the goals, is the activities that match what it is we're trying to accomplish. That's really long-winded. I'm sorry, but I get excited about this stuff.
No, it's a great point. And there's a difference between the knowledge and the identification than actual work and
right.
And committed to a certain standard or what you say you're going to do and follow through with that. With a trainer, talking of the fitness industry again, I'm not sure what your experiences are with trainers. Do you have any trainers amongst the groups and communities that you have? And if so, if there's any points that we could take away today from working with those trainers in particular?
Do I have any fitness trainers in our audience? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
I'm sure we do. As large as our audience has grown, I'm sure we do. I haven't talked to them specifically. I know that there's been a few on the podcast and things like that. Are you asking what they can specifically do to enhance what area of their life? Because I'm willing to give ideas. Maybe we can be a little bit more specific.
What impact do you think this type of coaching would have on a personal trainer?
Oh, yeah. No, I see what you're saying. Well, at the end of the day, it's really a matter of what it is that they're trying to accomplish. So if they're trying to grow their clientele, if they're trying to connect deeper with the relationships they have, if they're trying to learn to be better communicators, these are all things that are going to help. But here's the bottom line. It's impossible for us to make decisions in a vacuum. So the way that we approach our work or the way that we approach our relationships will naturally progress over into every area of life. I'll share with you a story that's helped me, and I know a lot of people that follow me have heard this story before, but I think it's perfect for your audience. 3 years ago, I weighed 50 pounds more than what I weigh today. And I was tired. I didn't have any energy. I was negative. I was down on my life and just where I was. And I decided that I had to do something. So I remember sitting in a parade about this time 3 years ago, and somebody dropped off a flyer for a CrossFit gym. And now I'm not going to get into it because this could get heated, especially with with fitness trainers. That's not the point. But the point is that I'm making here is that I went on this fitness journey, and over the course of 6 months to a year, I lost 50 pounds. I've been able to keep it off. I participated in Spartan events. I did a 60-hour endurance event several months ago. And what's really interesting is a friend of mine, he's actually a colleague, he said, Ryan, how's the fitness journey going? This was about a year and a half into it. And I said, you know what, Greg, this has been the best business decision I ever could have made. And he said, what do you mean? Said the concepts and the things that I'm learning about fitness when it comes to discipline and being motivated and doing things when you don't want to be doing them and pushing hard and sacrificing, all of those disciplines that it takes are the same skills that are required for you to be a better communicator. They're the same skills that are required for you to have more meaningful relationships. They're the same skills that are required for you to grow your business and make more money and provide value. So as long as you're subscribing to these principles in any area of life, it's naturally going to transfer over into other areas.
I think that's so true. And that's why I see when a trainer does decide for himself that he does want to get to work on figuring out his challenges or blind spots with relationships and business, because he's already got his health down. So what he's learned in that area of his life seems a very easy crossover once he decides to get to work on those other two areas. Because he's so conditioned already, it's just a matter of crossing it over and becoming so self-aware about those other two areas. That's so true, actually. Talking of your journey with your fitness, I know that you do a lot of physical challenges within the groups of men that you have. I see there's a recent article with some podcast that you did with a Navy SEALs guy, which is something that I'm very interested in at the moment. Is it one area that men could do better at, do you think, in terms of their physical health? Lacks within most men that you work with, or?
Well, I think number one, just carving out the time to do it. Again, we fall back on the excuse of being busy. And there are things that we want to be busy with, like work and providing for our family and doing things in the community. So we fall back on that. And then we say, well, this is good stuff. I can't get rid of this. So I think that's first and foremost, like carve out some time in your day. I mean, we just don't do enough of that, and be very disciplined, be very committed, create a system, create a process that will allow you to exercise when works for you. I personally like mornings. If that doesn't work for you, it doesn't matter. The best workout, the best exercise that you can do is the thing that you'll actually do, right? So I think that's first and foremost. Next is I think there's a lot of basics that people are missing, and it's really interesting, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong. Your audience knows a lot more about this than I do, but it's really interesting when people ask about specific diets or specific supplement programs or these, special unique workouts that only work for elite athletes. And my thought is, well, how much sugar are you eating on a daily basis? How much water are you drinking on a daily basis? When's the last time you actually just went for a jog? And when people say, well, I don't do that stuff, it's like, well, don't worry about this high level stuff. Just do the basics first. It's funny to me, somebody was talking about bulletproof coffee. They said, is bulletproof coffee healthy for you? And I'm considering switching from regular coffee to bulletproof coffee. I'm like, dude, just drink more water. Yes, like this isn't bulletproof coffee. Okay, that's good if you use that. But if you're really wanting to be healthy, just drink a ton of water. And too many people are trying to game the system when if you just focused on some few basics, which is move a little bit more, eat a little bit less, drink a lot of water, get the proper sleep. It's not rocket science. It's just that having the discipline to do these things, these very seemingly mundane, ordinary tasks that are going to yield big results for you.
That's so true. Just sticking to the basics before you start adding or trying to get too excited with the
right. You're not going to go from the couch to qualifying for the Olympics. So don't worry about it. Just get off the couch and go for a run. And then we can worry about the Olympics down the road.
Yeah. And the reason why I brought that up, because I was looking at the opposite end of the spectrum as well, because personal trainers are, we could say, pretty obsessive with their bodies, let's say, their health.
Sure.
So when they do, and this is just talking from personal experience, when they start to reach their 30s, when they bring on these other responsibilities to themselves, family, and really owning on their business skills, it's very difficult for them to transition from being an absolute dedicated, should we say, gym freak to actually, I can step back a little bit. It doesn't have to be so full on. And somehow I do have to find a way that the family does take priority and the business and then the health, rather than it being the other way around, if that makes sense. So it was just really trying to give some insight or prepare the trainer for when they do, or when they are presented with that crossroad, that it's okay, and there will be a moment of uncertainty in the future where fitness and exercise won't be the be all and end. You can adapt, and as you've said, you can find that congruency across all boards of those areas of their life. So,
can I say one other thing to that as well?
Certainly.
The thing that I would add is that the aesthetics of looking good when you're fit are great. And I don't want to downplay the importance of that. But if it's not helping you live a more enriched life, it really doesn't matter. And so if you're not taking time for yourself, if you're not taking time for your family, if you're not taking time to disengage and actually engage with other meaningful activities, you are going to be less productive. You might look like $1 million, but you won't be performing at your full capacity because you're going to burn yourself out and you're going to get jaded and you're going to become frustrated with the industry that you love so much. So you do have to recharge. You do have to step back. And life is about being a well-balanced person, not just a great trainer or a great coach or even a great father. You have to be all of these things. And we do that through balancing our activities and our energies.
Ryan, that's such a great point, and I think it's a perfect point to more or less bring this show to a wrap. It was so important that you said that then. And for those that are listening in, I'd like to find more about you, Ryan. Where could we send them?
Yeah, so the best place to find what we're doing is orderofman.com. That's our headquarters. So we've got all of our blogs and our podcasts, and we've got all of that over there. If the other resource that I might share is we've got a closed Facebook group. It is only available for men, but we've got over 7,000 men in there, and we're having some serious discussions about what it means to be a man, how to be a better father, leader. So anybody who's listening to this, who's a man, would definitely gain value if they're bold enough to, number one, join, and then number two, ask some really good questions so they can improve their lives. And those are the two resources I'd give you.
Yeah, and I can personally vouch for the Facebook group. It's such an inspiration to see other men on the same journey as you, seeking out questions, answers. And you're very active in those groups yourself, aren't you?
I try to be. Yeah. The last thing I wanted to create was just some place where guys go, but they never hear from me. And so I don't want to be necessarily the face of the company, but I do want to be engaged. This is work that I love and I want to be involved. And I think the men of our audience deserve as much interaction as I can possibly give them. I know at times it's limited because I've got other things going on just like everybody else, but I do try to be as engaged and active and available as I possibly can.
And the URL for the Facebook group, is it just people can just search Order of Man?
Yeah. So, well, that's a little tricky because we've got a page too, but if you go to facebook.com/groups/Order of Man, it'll take you right to it. And then you just request access and we'll get you approved in there. Perfect.
There you go, guys. Ryan, I have to thank you again. Thank you for your time. I know the audience is going to see tremendous value in this conversation that we've had. And I look forward to hearing great things, and hopefully personal trainers will be in touch with you soon.
Awesome, Joe. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
That's a wrap. Episode 4 done in this series of Untold. Thank you once again to Ryan Michler. And if you'd like to find out more about Ryan, head over to www.orderofman.com. Now, in the meantime, if you have any questions about this show, then head over to the Fitman Collective Facebook group at www.facebook.com/groups/the Fitman Collective. We'll be having deeper conversations about this show. It is a more confidential place where we'll be helping each other become better personal trainers by becoming better men. Finally, be sure to check back and subscribe to this channel. Series 2 is in the making. The main topic of discussion will be around freedom, and as always, how you can implement this back into your personal training business as well as your personal life. Stay tuned for this.
Thank you for listening to the Fitman Collective podcast. This is your life. Don't settle for mediocre. Don't settle for average. Don't even settle for great. Beware the average man who attracts an average companion. Beware the great man who believes they've achieved everything and appears just a little too comfortable. Don't be them. Become the patient wolf. The Fitman Collective is waiting for you. Know yourself. With us, Reinvent yourself and your place in this world. Body, mind, health, relationships, career, money, all of it, and more. We can never be caught. We can never be categorized. The Fit Man Collective reinvents the future of the Fit Pro. The Fit Man makes his own fate. Join us at thefitmancollective.com.